Hello. We are back so soon because the last video caused quite an uproar and yeah.
We like that though.
Yeah, but it's lots of inbox messages. If some of this was discussed out in the open, it kind of would
Yeah, it would have
help.
canceled itself out. Yeah.
Yeah, help this along, but it's yeah, there's a lot of personal conversations being had with a lot of people, and there's stuff we feel like we still wanted to add. I know it was a mini MAPsterclass, but anyway.
The continuation.
Off the top of your head, anything that came up since then or you want to add? Because, I'll be talking a lot, so.
There was, okay, so off the top, right quick, there was a mini discussion about the difference between the skilled MC and the not so skilled MC. And I basically remember someone saying, well, what's so bad about someone just being able to do what the skilled MC can do, right? Not necessarily having the same style or something like this, right? Mm-hmm. And right off the top, like one of the things, or many things that I thought about, were basically canceled out from this one thing that the lady was asking me about, like, and she goes, the way that she answered it was, she came up with some sort of analogy. And this person that was asking her about it, like, was into construction, right? And she goes, okay, so if I just learned how to tighten and loosen bolts, right? And that was my skill. And I did that really well, but I didn't necessarily know how to, like, eliminate certain situations when they came up on the fly. Like, I would always have to go get the supervisor, or always have to go get, someone else that knew something more about it. She says, well, why wouldn't I be able to take over your job? And it was just, that was like an epiphany moment, where it's like, yes, this skill set, like, it isn't necessarily like on the surface so much that you can just say a few things and people automatically get it. You know what I mean? And mainly because, like, there's a value system, right? And not everybody knows the value system that has been built with rap, or with what we're calling the skilled MC, right? Mm-hmm. So as we start to kind of go through this, hopefully we'll start to create more of that value system that people can be like, oh, so that's what certain things are built off of, so that I can tell a little bit more what it is that you guys are talking about.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's kind of like if the supervisor or whoever knows how to build a house and the other person knows how to nail some things down or work with screws, a person walking by can see them nailing something and think that, oh, okay, they know how to do this. Maybe I can, hire them to do something. Like, you would realize pretty quickly this person does not know how to build a house. You know what I'm saying? And there you have the person who actually knows how to build the entire house watching these people. All they know how to do is tighten screws, right? And the person that knows how to build a house, there's other things involved, like, okay, plumbing, right? Maybe they don't know how to do plumbing, but they've been in this environment and this profession for 10, 20 years. They know the best plumber, so that they call him in, and then they do that. They know the best person to call to do security for the house afterwards. Like, whatever, somebody who's in it that deeply and has that much experience. If you're in it, you know the difference. Yeah. If you just walk by and see somebody hammering something down on this gorgeous, beautiful new house in a wonderful, expensive neighborhood, you could believe that they know what they're doing. So it's kind of just like where people are placed.
And there's other folks on top of that, right? Like, they can see, like, what angle you're hitting the nail in, and they can be like, nah, that ain't it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they can tell the difference. Like, when you're in it and you know more of that craft, you have so much more to kind of go off of, that then helps you to decide or decipher, like, who knows what they're doing, who doesn't know what they're doing, or who's imitating.
And another thing in that conversation, which we can kind of go deeper into is that person that didn't know what makes good rap different from somebody just talking. So, like Daniel Radcliffe, who's an actor who could learn all of Gift of Gab's words for a song,
Right.
that does not make him Gift of Gab.
Right.
But like, what is the difference between the two? That person knew the difference between like Prince singing a Prince song and then a fan or somebody else singing a Prince song, right? Because that's obvious to them, because they understand that skill a little bit better. The hip hop skill, especially now that you're kind of seeing just a bunch of people, talking and being flashy and whatever else, right? For the average person, it's kind of hard to understand what is the big deal.
right, exactly.
Like why? And so then that devalues that skill.
Oh yeah.
Devalues the art form. Then it devalues somebody like Swanberger because now people, he raps. I've heard a lot of rap. It doesn't seem like an art form. It doesn't seem like, a real culture. It's just whatever.
Yeah.
So just to throw that in there as maybe a homework assignment, if anyone's interested, I'm wondering, is Swanberger on your top 5? And then if he's not, then take someone from your top 5, go to Genius Lyrics or whatever, pull up their song and pull up one of, his songs. It doesn't have to be Adventures in Mugs and Pockets. It could be, from Tenfold or earlier ones. And actually, like, show your work. Defend your answer. And it doesn't have to be just lyrics. Start with lyrics because that's an easier, right?
Yeah.
But everything that we talked about, okay, I'm going to compare lyrics with lyrics. Then I'm going to compare delivery with delivery, persona with persona, how they cut through the track or what they chose to do on this particular beat and what they chose to do on this particular beat, how they responded to what's there.
Oh, that's
just
dope.
All of the stuff we talked about. And I feel like so much of music, for us is emotional and nostalgic, right? So when you first heard, Jay-Z or Biggie or whatever, maybe you were in the prime of youth and everything was exciting and like, you were having adventures, so you didn't have to worry about things. And now like there's so much of it that's actually you and your nostalgia and your feelings. And that's totally cool because I will forever love me my Missy Elliott and I will forever, and some people are just a lot better at different skills. Like I will forever love Tupac because, and not necessarily as a lyricist, now that I know so much more than when I was like 12, 13 years old, right? But he at the time came up with a song like Keep Your Head Up, right? Where it was just like, somebody's listening, somebody understands, somebody is talking to us in almost a caring way, and for a lot of people that has a deep emotional connection. So for me, he had that skill to connect with you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To make you feel like you're not in it alone. And that's a huge skill for an artist to have. So, it's connection. Absolutely. So it's not always, about the fast raps and the skill. And, people have different strengths. So that's another thing we talked about. A lot of people's top 5s, they pick people to impress other people. They're not actually their top 5s.
Of course.
And because you're afraid to say something else in your top 5.
It'll be like the top 4, if you will be like all the same, and then they'll pick like one that's basically kind of like them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you know what? I'll pick I don't know who. You pick one. Man, I can't even think of one right now.
Well, Gift of Gab.
Gift of Gab might show up on somebody's thing.
Okay, a Micah 9. Okay.
Micah 9. I mean, see, now we just
Charlie
picking.
Tuna.
Yeah, now we picking all of ours.
Picking our people.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think that like
from Poor Righteous Teachers.
Oh yeah,
like
of course,
you were saying,
of
or
course.
like Bahamadia.
Bahamadia. That's I mean those
You know?
and those are the types of folks where like when I see those folks, I have seen Bahamadia like on a slow track. You know what I'm saying? Slow jam. I have heard her on a faster joint, like, and I'm talking like
that drum and bass
drum
kinda,
and bass,
yeah.
right? Exactly, like with the Ronnie
Yeah.
Size, man, the represent from Ronnie Size, like, and she will introduce those types of things on her album. So, as far as an introductory, like style, if you will, like to what she's doing on faster beats, what she's doing on slow beats. Like if you're just getting used to that, if you're just like coming in and finding out what it is that an MC like her can do, like you're gonna get so many different styles as to like what it is that she's introducing, and it seems as if you're gonna have that much more of a level head like when you're starting to talk about hip hop. And yeah, I think that you can go across the board knowing, oh, hip hop sounds dope when you combine, faster elements, slower elements, melodic elements. Like you can still incorporate all of these things and get something that is really, really dope.
And another skill we didn't really talk about per se, right, of a MC or a producer or a singer is just the musicality, just studying something like, or listening to a lot of jazz, listening to different things, thinking of a producer as a composer, because right now it's so easy to make a beat. Anybody can grab GarageBand, Ableton, put in even buy loops and put it together, and it's just like, then again, like, do we know the difference between a good producer and it's always the producer versus beat maker. But all the stuff we were talking about, the skills of an MC, the producer, if they don't know the skills of an MC, how can they bring the best performance out of that person? How can they ask the MC, why don't you try it like this? Why don't you look for a different pocket? You're a little bit like on the grid or whatever, like try to give it more bounce. Try to like give it, whatever.
Just to interject real quick,
things.
like when you talked about the bounce, like a lot of times I'll talk to producers like, there's that square kind of feel, and then there's that circle kind of feel. You know what I mean? And that square is like, and then the circle is like, which to me, like when you give an MC, like especially one that's so used to rhyming, and then I went to the store and I bought you know what I mean? Like when you give them the bounce or the circular kind of production, they gotta switch that up. They gotta learn, okay, I might have to use like one of these smaller words to like then like a transitional word that'll kind of go into another word. You know what I mean? Like smoother, so that I can kind of, continue that circular motion that's happening with the beat, But if it's if it's super like rigid, you're gonna end up using words that are just like, they're more stark. And a lot of times, like with stark words, I was gonna talk about like consonants and vowels, the types of words that you end up using to.
Right. So that's another thing about like the producer and the MC. So once we get to the MC, the very skilled MC, right? Then both the producer, if they know who they're working with, they get to play and they get to play, right? Because a lot of the stuff we were talking about, as a beginner, you're gonna your first couple tracks you might rhyme hat, bat, cat. Then another you might be like, oh, I'm a little bit more aware, so it's going to be the spiritual, visual, lyrical, right? But then it's like after you got 2 songs down, 27 songs after that, if you're still doing that, something's whatever, It's like if you keep on expanding, it's okay to do that, to get that out of your system, learn from that, but then it's just like then you go. But then when you get to that other level, that's kind of when you get to play. So when people are like some of these beats, they don't have a snare on it.
Mm.
Because I know he's gonna be the snare on it.
Right.
Because if he is just like, he'll know where to put the k or the t or the harder consonants.
And I'll use words like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she's speaking on. Is I'll use words like that to kind of be the hi-hat and the
snare.
The snare, right?
Yeah.
So I even made some shit up that was like blaming on the Cayman, the people who became another bad human crop for the cash and the cream. Please, this can't get better. Please, contact another and let them know the till when the till is undercover. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like just to get the consonants,
right.
You know what I'm saying, and the vowels like moving like they were a drum kit.
And then if like there was no kick in a section, you can
Right.
use a lot of like boom.
Yeah, like B's and P's and bombastic. Right, that's dope.
So it's like if you have an MC that skilled, you almost don't want to give them something that they're just like the.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? They want to have fun too. They want to explore. There's a lot of. Right now we're coming across so many bored artists because the template out there, the thing that's selling, the thing that everybody cares about is so boring to them because they are that talented, because they are past that point, because they reached their peak and nothing was challenging them.
And if you don't give them, if the producer like doesn't know the artist and they're not necessarily giving them something to challenge them, then you won't necessarily get the actual skill of a skilled MC.
Right.
You'll get the version that's basically trying to just deal with the beat that was given. And in most cases, you know what I'm saying, like, I don't know how people out there do it, you know what I'm saying, whether they're paying for their beats or they're just kind of downloading MP3s or whatever. But sometimes as the MC, you don't know your skill because you're paying attention to other people's and the grand populace, you know what I'm saying, and what they're doing, and you're like, maybe I can do something that's just like that. You know what I mean? So therefore, like, you try to deliver something and not even knowing what if the beat is a square or a circle. You know what I mean? But you try to deliver something that is in line with or that matches what's out there already, and you end up delivering something that is just kind of, half-assed.
Yeah, and that's kind of how we talked about, like, just like the TikTok and the Reel kind of like where we're at right now, where everybody is trying to copy. And it's like, that's cool. Obviously, as a beginner, you try to like copy what people are doing. But then if you don't take it further, and there's so much talent. There's so much talent. These kids have so much talent with like just videography and like ideas and skill. It's like they're coming up with things that is better than Hollywood, because Hollywood are just doing remakes and remakes and remakes. And we have so much. It's just like this bubble of energy and talent, and it's not directed towards individuality.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
Yeah.
But just to take it a step back, because I didn't want to miss this when we talk about the producer and the MC. We did a kind of similar thing with Charlie Tuna on Green Meadows. So if you've heard Green Meadows, I produced it, but then Da Vinci added some things, and one of the things he added was that crazy bass line. And so then, as a producer, right, you kind of sit back and it's like, well, whose voice will sound good on that? But when we talked about the last part of this, we talked about, well, if your voice is already kind of in the same area as a different sound, you might, want to change your voice so it's not competing.
Right.
However, in this case, again, highly skilled MC who can play with that. So even though that bass is there and his voice is there, now he's like doing this. He's playing with that bass, like almost like hot oil popping on and off and in between it. And it's like, we didn't know for sure he was gonna do that, but we had an idea that he knows what his voice is. He knows what that bass does when he's, and we can trust his skill.
Exactly. And it was like he trusted his voice too, to be like that much more detailed than the bass, so that he can kind of play with the bass and just, give that almost like that rumble, that bubble kind of like, you know what I mean? So it's like he almost became like the wobble between his voice and the bass.
Yes.
And like, so with this bass, the bass was almost as if like it was clean or whatever. And it just had like this deeper, and then he, with his voice, like added those textures to that. So it was like
added some definition.
Oh my God. Yeah. So it just created something that was just like,
yes,
beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, and when you hear that, not just as an MC, but when you hear that as a person that loves different sounds and things like this, you know what I'm saying? Especially when that's what's being paid attention to.
Right.
It was beautiful. Shout out Charlie Tuna,
Shout out.
Yeah.
So, right, we talked kind of about like people don't get to hear that a lot. So there's that loss of value. But I think it's just really important to mention how important artists are. Because a lot of times we'll hear the whole thing like, well, if artists get preachy, right? We don't really want artists to get preachy. And it's just like, okay, nobody cares about your opinion, just rap. Nobody cares about your opinion, just dance. Nobody cares about your opinion, just play your guitar. Or nobody cares about your opinion, play your football. Whatever, right? Just be. And it's like, okay, I don't like listening to preachy rappers or singers or anything like that. But when you think like how to get a message out to the people, there's no more powerful way than for everyone to keep repeating the same words, the same lyrics, to get something stuck in their head, Yeah. So we did our lyrics post on mugsandpockets.com where we kind of, we listed all of our lyrics, but also we did that kind of like breakdown. It's like these lyrics, they will get stuck in your head. This is something that you will repeat over and over. And so much of it is like, we're not conscious of making these decisions. You'll just hear the same song over and over and over, even though the first time you listen to it, you might not like it, right?
Right. Well, it depends, because what it is that you're listening to on the radio, what it is that is just constantly being pushed out there by the status quo, like, is not what it is that we're doing, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or not necessarily what it is that the individual artist in their bedroom, in their, studio is conjuring up.
And it's not what you would, like, if you read the lyrics on Genius, it's not something you would choose to repeat every day, right?
Right.
Because now we're more into this, like, people are into like manifestations and there's all these things, or just prayer, right? Choose these things I want to repeat over and over and over. Yeah. And yet, like, we don't care what we're repeating over and over and what's even like playing in our head over and over without us paying any attention. So, I mean, it's something to kind of like pay attention to.
Well,
but you know what I'm saying? Like,
there's this upon talking to certain people as well about like the mini MAPsterclass, there was at a point in time where like we were talking about radio, and on the radio they had noticed that the songs that they listened to get themselves hyped, it wasn't just getting them hyped. It was also like kind of changing like their atmosphere, changing who it is that they hung out with, changing what it is that they ate, and their decision making, like split second decision making. You know what I'm saying? So one of the things was more fast food was being eaten. And this would be by way of just, driving down the street or whatever. Boom, songs is playing. Oh man, let me go get this little snack real quick. Right now, the thing that he had mentioned to me was that he was listening to our stuff, and it had him so like involved, like with what we were saying, that food wasn't necessarily like on his brain, more so than it was like, okay, the food that you guys are feeding me, like that's what I want. So when he actually got hungry, his thought pattern was like, well, I just got all this good food. I think I need like a salad. I need something that's gonna feed me, you know what I'm saying, a little bit more than just, what McDonald's can,
It's
do for
crazy,
me.
but we get this from people like all the
Oh,
time.
it's all the time.
All the time.
All the
Just
time.
like changing their whole like mindset for the day, or like something with like Thrive. A lady said
Oh my
like she
goodness.
asked her daughter like, what do you think about this song or these lyrics? And her daughter just shared some like things about, her self-esteem and other things that she relates to. And
Right.
her mommy had no idea this
No
stuff
idea.
was even going on.
No idea.
Just deepen that relationship. Or we have people who, since, the birthday tea parties, they've
Yeah.
been doing like weekly tea parties with their partner, or even like
Yep.
dancing to Be Mine. Or, it's like, it's so powerful. Like,
Yeah.
Countries used to hire composers to compose marches that will make people go to war and put their life on the line, because they'll get so like this sense of nationalistic pride, or whatever this music was written for, whatever words they're repeating, in the army or here and there, to kind of keep up your strength and keep camaraderie. You'll repeat
Right.
words together, little jingles, this and that. It's just
Exactly.
like, it's so powerful.
Did we get into the musicality?
We did a little bit.
A little bit?
We did a little
Okay.
bit. Just like,
Because I
feel free to go deeper into
Yeah,
it,
'cause, like, it's-
obviously this man can like jazz with jazz rap with a jazz band and combo, and he has done it before. And then
Yeah.
just like the average rapper, that's another thing, is like, if you give them a 6/8 beat or something like that, they have real trouble with that. So it's just like another skill, of
Yeah.
like actual musical knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's a skill. Sorry.
No, do your thing.
Of a producer as well, right? Because that's one of the biggest problem I've had over the years, working with producers, because I don't sing regularly in a regular, I guess, scale, or I add all these harmonies that are a little bit different. Nobody knew what to do with it, and then they would just add a beat or add elements, and it would all clash, and they didn't understand why. And even for this album, we're working with like top-notch jazz instrumentalists, and they got it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as easy
it was
as
still-
that other
yeah.
stuff, and they were like, oh, I actually have
Like-
to use all these skills that I have in my pockets.
One of the things was like, oh, she actually knows. She's actually doing this dissonant chord like on purpose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you didn't want to just like, run over that. Like you wanted to make sure that was emphasized, but still continued in a way where like the song doesn't get interrupted. It's just like part of it.
Okay, so
All right, musicality. I wanted to jump into a little bit because like as far as everything is concerned, when we're talking about skilled MC versus like the person that doesn't know too much about MCing or just is rapping, I think that it's very fair, like for both MCs and the audience to understand like what is at stake. You know what I'm saying? So basically what gets introduced to you is what we then kind of use in order to say, oh, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. So a lot of times the skilled MC is not looking at it like I'm better than everybody. The skilled MC is looking at it like, well, there's so much more to add on this plane, you know what I'm saying, that we can be judging from. So musicality being one of them. And a lot of people, you'll see it in dance, you know what I'm saying? You see a lot of people that'll like hit moves, you know what I'm saying, with the lyrics and shit like this, right?
killing the beat.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I mean? DJs will do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Producers will add little things here and there just to like give more aid to the dancers so that the dancer can do something musically, you know what I'm saying, that just accompanies that and makes it look really, really dope.
Yeah.
Same thing could be happening with these MCs, but the MCs, a lot of times, if they're not skilled, they don't know what to do with those little parts. There were a lot of times as an MC that we would just be sitting down writing rhymes, right? Producer would have something. It would be a nice little dope little part. I would come up with something and they would be like, I'm gonna skip that part. And it was just like, what? Like that part was the greatest, you know what I'm saying? Like you could create such amazing palettes, if you will, right? And even pockets, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Little pockets of dope musicality,
Yeah.
Or musical pieces, you know what I'm saying, in that. So I feel like when you're able to use musicality in your verses, and like you're able to kind of dip in and out of what it is that you're doing when you're writing, like it allows for that flow, like to have so much more to it. And rhythmically, like you can do so much more to it as well. Like you can turn not everything when you're rapping has to be like a staccato kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you can add like basically I like to call them lines. You know what I'm saying? It was like in skateboarding, it's like you do a trick, you keep continuing to do a trick, and you don't mess up. That's a line. You know what I mean? So like with legato stuff, you know, you can follow something. A lot of times when we doing our car raps, you know, I'll be doing some staccato and she'll add like the legato in there because musically what she's doing is she's damn near singing it, you know what I'm saying, or sing-song rapping it. And I think that having that type of power can allow also your producer to like go in that much more. There was one little thing also where like there's producers that create things and it is a musical landscape basically, and it is so dope, and that's the stuff that you like a shadow or something, and that's the stuff that you're like, ooh, what would an MC be like on that? And there's not enough MCs that actually can step up to that, to know what to do musically, you know what I'm saying, in order to make it sound like, oh, this works.
Yeah. And that's the same thing about putting an MC on a song like Scarburger or Art of Chill, or any like of these pop songs that he randomly will hear a feature because the pop star is popular and the rapper is popular. Not really realizing that rapper never really did the slow stuff, right? And now they put him on a ballad and it's just like the most random shit. It's because they developed this one skill for these, you know, more like hype club tracks, and then you put them on a ballad and then it's just like, what is going on here? You know, that's a skill for him to be able to come on those tracks and for it to still make sense. Like that's not just like by mistake. That's not like something everybody can do. But okay, just a couple more things. One, something that we were talking about was people who are just kind of like, well, I'm just having fun.
Oh my goodness.
You know what I'm saying? So like, okay, yeah, I'm rapping and I'm doing these things and it's, you know, music, art, it's for everybody. I'm just having fun. Amazing. That's fantastic. I am, you know, like I would love if more people did that to learn about the craft, so that, you know, because like we're only as good as, you know, the audience is educated and all that. I want everybody to be musical and artistic and explore and learn about it. But when you start making it your profession, you have a responsibility to the profession, to the craft, to the other people in it. Because otherwise you're just diluting everything and bringing the value of everything down. Just like, you know, we know, like I know this from the dance world, being mad at dancers that will do the gig for free because then the other dancers are not getting paid. It's same thing with models. It's same thing with, you know, features. It's same thing with beats. It's kind of like, now that you are considering yourself a professional or like entering that world, you're on a different turf. So you could be having fun, but
most definitely. I mean, how it affects me in this way is like, and this is one of the things that we were talking about too, is, for instance, again, these stories, these personal stories. There was a person that was saying like, yo, at least I'm having fun, right? And one of the things that I brought up was the fact that, like, you know, as far as like some of these cultures and like how this shit was started, this shit was not out of fun. This shit was like for survival. You know what I mean? So like as a black art, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of us, you know, we learned to use it in that way. You know what I mean? And then obviously when it becomes universal, you know, that skill set, you know what I mean, is personified in so many different ways because everybody's expressing themselves in different ways. However, like the fun aspect, you know what I mean, if promoted so much so, you know what I'm saying, in the professional setting, like once it gets viewed by other folks that are also just trying to have fun, that or want to have fun because they look at it and they're like, oh man, that looks great, you know, they take that and then again, as we explained before, like turn it into something totally different. So now it dilutes the culture, it dilutes the people, you know what I'm saying? And it dilutes the future of what that music is. So when you go to talk about hip hop, like that value system, it's very hard to like grab that value system again and even talk about it on the level that we're trying to talk about it. Like with the skill MC, you know what I'm saying, versus the person who can just do things or does it as a task or does it for fun. So now, you know, it could also be something that's like, well, why do you even want to talk about a skilled MC in this? Why don't we let everybody just do what they want to do? And it's like, that's not its start. Like, there's a reason why you cultivate certain things, you know what I'm saying, within your culture, within your skill set. And it's like, yo, like you can call that something different, but don't call it hip hop.
That's a huge, you know, also conversation within the dance scene, because you will see 18, 19-year-old hip hop teachers, but you won't see an 18, 19-year-old ballet teacher. Like who would hire them without any experience and any knowledge, right? And so because people don't understand what it is, what hip hop dance is, then they'll look at music videos, and then a dancer that's been dancing, you know, is very skilled in jazz, modern, gymnastics, whatever. I can do what's in that music video, and then they start teaching just routines without, you know. So I mean, that's a whole other thing, and it obviously happens in many aspects of it. But I forgot my train of thought. I'm just saying. I'm not throwing my pen again.
Nice.
It's just, I don't know, like,
yeah. I feel it. I
mean, I know you feel.
I feel the frustration.
I have one more thing.
Sure.
One last thing. One thing we hear a lot is we give our music to people. They listen to it. Yeah, that's dope. And then later, it's like part of their Spotify playlist or something. And it comes on after some other songs, just like unexpected. And they hear it out of context of knowing that it's my friend Swam or it's my friend Scar. And they'll be jamming to this song like, this is dope. And then we're like, whoa, it's Mugs and Pockets. I did not expect that. Yeah. I didn't know this song was so good.
Yeah.
Like listening to songs already completely prejudiced of what you're going to hear because you either know the people or they're your friends, so they can't possibly be that good. Like, it's like
great
pulling
point.
Teeth,
Great
trying
point.
to have people listen to any of our songs or present anything we do and have people respect it on the level of other artists that they admire.
Right.
Because they know us and they already listen with a prejudice that this is probably somewhere on the amateur scale.
Yeah, sure. And even if they don't think that, like, it still kind of resonates in that area because, again, like, it's accessible. That's why a lot of times, like, a lot of celebrities are trying to be more mysterious than anything. So, you try to get in touch with them, you can't get in touch with them. Some people even wear, masks to the point where you can't see their face. You can't relate them to the human element.
He had to introduce most of my beats just on their own without saying they're my beats.
Right.
So people would assume they're his beats or Da Vinci's beats.
Right. Give the credit.
So they're like, yo, that's a dope beat.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'd say, she made the beat. Because if from the beginning I said, hey, I made it, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
I made this beat. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they're gonna look at
that's nice.
Gonna look at her,
she's trying.
Say, right.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Like, people's perception of stuff, like, you hear what you already figured out in your head you're gonna hear. Like, people are not listening for what it is.
No, not at all.
And I think, just people are just kind of like living their lives that way. Like, just like on autopilot for everything.
Yeah,
and
that
it's
is
like,
a huge thing.
You gotta kind of, like, I understand it's a lot for your brain to handle every day. It's like, it's a thing. Like,
that's a huge thing.
It's what's been developed over the years, right? Because it's like every time you see a knife, you don't want your brain to have to test it out to see if it's sharp, right? There's things in place for us to be. Yeah. But there are other things in your life that are important that you want to actually make decisions in your life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
it truly does come down to what it is that you're willing to do. Like, again, crate diggers, you know what I'm saying? Information diggers, people who are, people who are willing to go through the depths to find out what it is that they actually like, what it is that they are a part of, like what they like and what that is a part of, and what it has to do with like the future of that music or of whatever it is that you're into. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason why we will constantly talk about Michelangelo, Picasso, you know what I'm saying? Things like this, you know what I'm saying? But if I were to ask somebody today, who's a Michelangelo today? Who's your Picasso today? Are you actually looking? Or are you just satisfied with the fact that, we had one. Yeah. That was it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody else is on a level that is beneath that. And it's like, with all this type of technology, all this new type of experience and knowledge about that stuff, man, there's mad people running circles around these folks.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't ever get the time of day, you know what I'm saying? Because of, again, mostly how it is that we set up our value system. And like, even though we have access to each other like every other day with this type of stuff, we're not looking for the greatness in that person. We're not looking for the next thing, you know what I'm saying? We're just like, oh, what's going on?
Right. Like, now people will be like, okay, can I get a Scarlet Monk beat? Where I couldn't give beats away for the past, few years. Because nobody, it's like, look at who's next to you. The people that are actually committed, like, challenge each other to make something.
Yeah. Oh, that's what's done. There it is.
Thanks for joining us in this. I encourage you to pick out your favorite parts, maybe share with somebody. If you have any discussion points, feel free to say it out in the open, because maybe other people have something to say, but we still appreciate all the DM and inbox conversations. It's all good. Yeah. It's all good. I know a lot of that stuff that comes up is actually really personal and things like that. But last thing I'm gonna say is like these IG videos, like some of them is like 80 views and 2 likes, and both of the likes are us.
All right.
So if 80 people saw it, it's free to like it so that the algorithm kind of spreads it a little bit. It's not that hard. Just put a fire emoji in the comments and share it and say, I know these people, and they're the dopest right now. Because that's how somebody will watch it. Otherwise, if you just share it and say nothing, people will scroll right past it. It's how it works. I don't make the rules. Bye.
Peace.